All right, so I'm going to go through the next step of my painting, and I wanted to first talk about the background. So right now I have the clouds in the background and the hills in the background. And in my photograph, I can see details in the background because it is a 21st century photograph. So the cameras now can pick up things like little light lines here and little variations in the hills. Okay, and I can paint that in, but I want my background to kind of just fade away and not be the center of attention. I want these two big rocks to be the center of attention, or our focal point. And so I'm going to leave out some of the minute detail in the background and focus on moving forward towards the foreground. So that would actually be the next step, is the middle ground. So that's how I kind of decided what I'm doing next. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil and pencil in kind of the shapes of the trees. I might even pencil in this little divot here and the rocks. Okay, so that's the next step. Here we go. All right, so I penciled in kind of the rest of the drawing, and let me hold it up for you because there's kind of a glare. So I kind of went around, I started from right to left and put in some of the kind of shape of the tree, and then I started in putting in just some tree trunks, like you can see over here, where I knew that they were kind of sticking out. I put in this divot in the grass and then the general shape of the rocks, but my canvas is a little bit different, so I pretty much am cutting off my canvas right about here. So I can see a little bit of that shadow down at the bottom here, but that's where my canvas is cutting off. All right, then now I can go and paint in my middle ground. So just like we've done before, I'll have my transparency here. I'll mix my paint. I'm going to mix a dark green. So I'm going to start with blue and yellow to make a green. And I'm pretty sure that this color isn't the color that I'm going to want, but I can start out with it and then use my transparency again. Let's see, which way does this go? To figure out how to change it. So I can put it here, and I see that it needs to be a lot darker. So I could add black or I could add red. So I think I'm going to add red because red and green make brown, and brown's pretty dark. So I'm just going to add a little bit of red and see what that does. And I'll make it kind of that army green that is pretty nice. And again, this is something that everybody sees color differently. You don't have to get exact. Put it back on there and see. It's darker for sure. I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, but it's definitely darker, but I need it to be even more dark. So taking my red again. Yep, there it goes. You can kind of almost watch it when it turns that darkness. Much better dark green. Using my transparency, dotting it on. I could even get it darker. I might choose to add just a little bit of black, but remember, black is very powerful. So I'm not going to do much black. That, I think, is a lot closer. And in my photograph, I have pictures of trees with that are evergreen trees, but there's also some deciduous trees. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, so there's a lot of deciduous trees down in here that for the time being I'm going to ignore, and I can decide later if I want to put those in. Okay, so I'm just going to start painting in my trees. And one thing you'll notice is that I'm not putting in a brown stem, but I am going to put in a stem. So I'm going to get my brush pretty flat. So kind of align the bristles flat like that. And I'm going to put in some of the stems here. Kind of a splayed brush for this one over on the left here. So my bristles are kind of apart. And I'm just tap, tap, tap. Okay, then I'm going to continue to put in some of these that are less defined, that don't have like straight up and down, that are just kind of filler in here. Filler, filler, filler. Okay? And I'm thinking I'm actually going to make it a little bit darker because these filler trees right here are a lot darker. So I'm going to add in some more black, just a little bit. Put it a little bit here. Mix it in. So that I have a little bit of contrast in the background. Okay, contrast means lights and darks. And so I have a little bit. This is more towards the middle ground now. So I can have some more contrast and some more detail. Okay, so that looks good. I'm just going to mix it all in. And I'll start painting kind of the shrubbery and the grouped trees. Wow, on the video it really looks black or dark, but it's a lot lighter in person. Okay, my recording cut out, but I'm starting to put in the darker trees. I've kind of put a little bit in these existing trees to give them some contrast, and I'm going to keep going. So in my picture I see like this bush right here. So I'm just going to kind of paint that one in. A little mound here. I don't see any other bushes. I see some here, but they're really light in color. So I need to mix some more color. So what I'm going to do is clean my brush. So you can see this is just kind of constantly going, mixing a color, putting some in, and then changing the color a little bit, putting some more in. So I'm actually going to put in some white in this dark, okay, because I don't want to change and make a whole new color. I just want to lighten it up for some of these shrubs in here. I might even want to make it a little brown. So first I will just lighten it up. And I can use my transparency again. And it's still too green, so I want to make it brown. So I'm going to add my red. Clean off my brush. Add some red here to really make it kind of browny. And I definitely think that I'm going to need to make it also a lot lighter. And you can see I didn't mix the entire amount of paint to change it. I just changed part of it. So I still have some of this paint over here if if I wanted to go back and use it. It's still wet paint. Okay, so testing it again. Oh my goodness, that is so close. I'm going to use it. So I'm just going to take my picture and observe where there are kind of shrubs and this lighter brown color and put them in. I'm going right on top of the bush that we had there before. All right, so here is what I've done in the middle ground with the trees. It's not exactly the same. I left out some things like this tree here. I'm not really interested in putting that in. Some of the trees in here, and there's like maybe a little dock or a boat back here, and I'm not going to put in any of those details. But you can see that I've gotten a curve here. It's kind of a curve right there. And I curved the bottom part here, and so I'm ready then to put in all this meadow grass in the next step. Thank you.